I had to come over and tell you, look incredible out here. The moment Isabella's hips started moving to the beat, every man in Club Crimson forgot how to breathe. But only one man forgot how to think. His name was Victor Petrov, and in exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds, he was going to make a decision that would destroy both their lives in the most beautiful way possible. But let me back up because you need to understand something. Isabella Chen wasn't supposed to be in Moscow at all. She wasn't supposed to be in that club, and she definitely wasn't supposed to catch the attention of the most dangerous man in Russia. But sometimes fate doesn't care about what's supposed to happen. Sometimes fate just wants to watch the world burn. If you're ready for a story so intense it'll make you forget your own name, so addictive you'll be reading at 3 a.m. with your phone at 1% battery, so passionate it'll ruin every other romance story for you, then buckle up. Hit that subscribe button right now because what you're about to read will change how you think about obsession, desire, and the thin line between salvation and destruction. And I'm not being dramatic. Not even a little bit. Let's begin. Isabella Chun was 20 years old, broke as hell, and currently making the worst decision of her life, or the best one. She honestly couldn't tell yet. 6 months ago, she'd been a dance major at Spelman College with a 3.8 GPA and a future so bright it hurt to look at directly. Then her mom got sick. Stage 4 breast cancer. The kind that turns medical bills into mortgage payments and makes you realize that health insurance is basically a scam designed to bankrupt normal people. Isabella had dropped out in her junior year, moved back to Atlanta, worked 3 jobs, waitressing at Waffle House, teaching kids dance classes at the YMCA, and doing hair on weekends. Every penny went to her mom's treatment. Every single one. And it worked. Her mom beat cancer. Against all odds, against every statistic, Carmen Chun was in remission. But Isabella was still broke, still no degree, still working herself to exhaustion just to keep from drowning in the debt they'd accumulated. Then her best friend Maya called with the most insane opportunity Isabella had ever heard. Girl, there's this international dance competition in Moscow. First place is $50,000. Isabella had laughed. Actually laughed. Maya, I don't have money for groceries. How am I supposed to get to Moscow? The competition pays for everything. Flight, hotel, meals. You just have to submit an audition video, and if you get selected, you're in. Isabella had submitted the video on a whim. A 3-minute routine she'd choreographed in her mom's living room, dancing to a mix of Afro beats and contemporary. She'd worn leggings and a sports bra because they were clean, and she hadn't had time to find anything else. Her natural hair was in a high puff. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked exactly like what she was, a tired 20-year-old trying to find joy in the only thing that still made sense. She got selected. 2 weeks later, Isabella was on a plane to Moscow with a suitcase full of borrowed clothes and a heart full of hope that felt dangerous. The competition was everything she'd dreamed of. Dancers from 20 different countries, choreographers whose work she'd studied for years. And the performances, God, the performances were incredible. Isabella made it to the finals. She didn't win. Came in 4th place actually, but she danced her heart out and left everything on that stage. No regrets. The night after the competition ended, Maya, who'd flown out for the finals, dragged Isabella to Club Crimson in central Moscow. We're celebrating, Maya said, already pulling Isabella toward the entrance. You just competed internationally. You placed 4th out of 300 dancers. We're getting drunk and dancing until our feet fall off. Isabella laughed. Maya, I can't afford club drinks in Moscow. Girl, I saw the prices. We're having exactly 2 drinks and dancing like we're rich. Come on. So Isabella went. She was wearing a black dress Maya had lent her. Tight, short, cut low enough to be interesting, but not so low it was desperate. Her natural hair was out, styled in a twist out that framed her face perfectly. Her dark skin was glowing under the club lights. And for the first time in 6 months, Isabella felt young, felt beautiful, felt like maybe, just maybe, her life wasn't completely falling apart. The DJ was playing an Afro beats remix that made Isabella's body move before her brain could catch up. She grabbed Maya's hand and pulled her onto the dance floor, and Isabella danced. She danced like she hadn't just spent 6 months watching her mother almost die. Danced like she wasn't drowning in debt. Danced like she was still that girl who'd believed her talent would be enough to change her life. Her hips rolled to the beat. Her waist moved in ways that made physics look like a suggestion. Her whole body was a conversation with the music, fluid and fierce, and absolutely fearless. She had no idea that 3 floors above her, a man who controlled half of Moscow's criminal empire was watching her on a security monitor and making a decision that would change everything. Viktor Petrov hadn't felt anything in so long, he'd almost forgotten what it was like. Almost. At 30 years old, he'd seen everything, done everything, owned everything. His father's empire had been built on fear and violence. Viktor had inherited that empire at 20 and transformed it into something more efficient, more profitable, more terrifying. He didn't just control Moscow's underworld. He controlled the people who thought they controlled it. Politicians, judges, police chiefs. They all had his money in their accounts and his secrets in their closets. Viktor was rich beyond comprehension, powerful beyond measure, and empty in a way that no amount of money or control could fill. He'd stopped feeling things years ago, stopped wanting things. Want was weakness, his father had said. Weakness got you killed. So Viktor had built walls, fortress walls, so high and thick that nothing got in. Not love, not hope, not desire, nothing until tonight. He was in Club Crimson's owner's suite, a private space that overlooked the entire club through one-way glass and security monitors. He owned the club, of course, owned most of the clubs in central Moscow, owned most of everything that mattered in Moscow. He'd come tonight because Dmitri, his head of security, had mentioned the International Dance Festival was wrapping up. Foreign dancers would be celebrating at various clubs. Viktor had been curious, nothing more. He was watching the monitors with the kind of bored detachment he brought to everything when he saw her. A black woman, young, early 20s, probably dancing in the center of the floor like she'd been born doing it. Natural hair catching the lights, dark skin glowing, body moving in ways that made his mouth go completely dry. But it wasn't just her body. It was the way she moved, confident, joyful, completely unaware that every person around her had stopped dancing just to watch. She was dancing for herself, for the music, for the pure joy of existing in her body. And something in Viktor's chest cracked open. For the first time in 10 years, Viktor Petrov wanted something. No, needed something. He needed to know who she was. Needed to hear her voice. Needed to touch her skin and find out if it was as soft as it looked under those lights. Needed to know if that joy she was radiating was real or just very good acting. Dmitri, Viktor's voice came out rougher than he'd intended. His head of security appeared immediately. Yes, boss. The woman on monitor 4 dancing, natural hair, black dress. Find out everything about her. Name, where she's from, why she's in Moscow, where she's staying, everything. Dmitri pulled out his phone, already making calls right away. But Viktor wasn't patient enough to wait. He stood up, straightened his suit jacket, and headed for the stairs. He was going down there. He was going to meet her, and God help both of them, because when Viktor Petrov wanted something, he took it no matter the cost. Isabella was mid-spin when she felt it. That weird prickle on the back of her neck that meant someone was watching. Not the casual watching that happened in clubs. The intense kind, the predatory kind. She turned, and her breath stopped. The finest man she'd ever seen in her entire life was walking directly toward her through a crowd that was parting like the Red Sea. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, Russian with perfect bone structure that looked like it had been carved by someone who understood exactly what women wanted to look at. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, eyes so dark and intense they didn't look real. Black hair styled back from his face. And he was wearing a suit that probably cost more than her mom's medical bills. The kind of suit that said, I'm rich, I'm powerful, and I'm very aware of both those facts. Everything about him screamed danger. But not the runaway kind of danger. The run toward kind. The kind that makes your stomach flip and your brain stop working. He stopped directly in front of Isabella, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. You dance beautifully. His English was perfect. Just the slightest hint of an accent that made every word sound more interesting. Isabella's heart was doing something weird. Thank you. What's your name? Isabella Chun. He said it slowly like he was tasting it. I'm Viktor. Can I buy you a drink? Every instinct Isabella had screamed, warning. This man was too smooth, too confident, too everything. Men who looked like that and moved like that didn't buy girls like her drinks just to be nice. But Isabella had spent 6 months being responsible, being careful, being boring. Tonight she wanted to be reckless. His smile was small but devastating. Follow me. He led her through the club, and Isabella noticed something weird. People moved out of his way. Not like they were being polite, like they were scared. Actually scared. Who the hell was this guy? They went up a set of stairs Isabella hadn't even known existed, past a security guard who nodded at Victor like he was seeing royalty, and into a private suite that overlooked the entire club. The space was insane. Floor-to-ceiling windows, leather furniture that looked soft enough to sleep on, a full bar, artwork on the walls that Isabella was pretty sure belonged in museums. Holy shit, Isabella breathed. You own this place. I own many places. Victor walked to the bar and poured 2 glasses of something amber that came from a crystal decanter. But yes, this club is mine. He handed her a glass. Their fingers brushed, and Isabella felt electricity shoot straight up her arm. So what do you do? Isabella asked, taking a sip. The liquor was smooth and expensive and definitely not something she could afford. Import and export very boring business things. Liar, Isabella thought. But she didn't push it. They talked about her competition, her dancing, her mom's cancer, her dreams of finishing her degree, about Moscow and Atlanta, and what it was like being far from home. Victor was an incredible listener. He watched her like every word she said mattered. Like she was the most interesting person he'd ever met. And Isabella, who'd spent 6 months feeling invisible, under the weight of bills and responsibility and exhaustion, felt seen. Really seen. How long are you in Moscow? Victor asked at some point. I leave in 3 days. Something flickered across his face. Something dark. 3 days isn't enough. For what? To know you. He moved closer. Close enough that Isabella could smell his cologne. Expensive. Intoxicating. To understand why watching you dance made me feel something I haven't felt in 10 years. Isabella's brain was screaming red flag, but her body wasn't listening. What did you feel? The question came out breathier than she'd intended. His hand lifted, fingers brushing her cheek so softly it barely counted as touch. You made me feel alive, Isabella Chun. And I don't think 3 days will be nearly enough time to explore what that means. She should leave. Should grab Maya and get the hell out of this club and away from this man who looked at her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. I should get back to my friend, Isabella said, standing up even though every part of her wanted to stay. Victor stood too, pulled a black business card from his pocket. Have dinner with me tomorrow night. I don't know if that's a good idea. Why not? Because you're either a criminal or a psychopath, and I'm not sure which one scares me more. He smiled. Actually smiled. And it transformed his entire face from intimidating to almost boyish. What if I'm both? Then I should definitely run. But you won't. He pressed the card into her hand. Because you felt it, too. When we touched, when I looked at you, felt exactly what I felt. He was right. God help her. Call me Isabella. Please. The please at the end softened everything just enough that Isabella took the card. She found Maya at the bar looking worried. Girl, where have you been? I was about to send out a search party. I met someone. His name is Victor. He owns this place. Maya's eyes went wide. Owns this place. Like the whole club. And he wants to have dinner with me tomorrow. Maya grabbed Isabella's arm and pulled her toward the exit. We need to leave right now. Because I was asking the bartender about the VIP section, and when I mentioned the owner, he literally went pale. Isabella, I think you just had drinks with a gangster. Isabella's stomach dropped. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that everyone in this club is terrified of him. I'm talking about the fact that the bartender looked at me like I just signed my death warrant by asking questions. Isabella, that man is dangerous. They got back to their hotel, and Isabella couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Victor's eyes, his touch, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious. The next morning, there was a knock on her door. A hotel employee stood there holding the biggest bouquet of white roses Isabella had ever seen. The card said, dinner tonight at 8. My driver will pick you up at 7:45. We're something that makes you feel as beautiful as you look dancing. There was also a garment bag. Inside was a dress. Red designer. Definitely cost more than Isabella made in 3 months. And it was exactly her size. How did he know her size? Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Isabella. Victor's voice made her knees weak even through the phone. Did you get my gift? How did you know my size? How did you know what hotel I'm staying at? I wanted to make sure tonight would be perfect. That's not an answer. I know. Say yes, Isabella. Let me show you what your life could be like. Every logical part of Isabella's brain screamed, no. This man had somehow found out where she was staying and what size she wore. That wasn't romantic. That was terrifying. But there was another part of her. A part that had been buried under responsibility and exhaustion and fear. A part that whispered, when was the last time someone wanted you this badly? Okay, Isabella heard herself say, I'll have dinner with you. You won't regret it. I promise you, Isabella Chun, you won't regret it. He hung up. Isabella stared at the phone. Then she looked out the window. 3 black SUVs were parked outside the hotel, just sitting there waiting. Isabella's hands started shaking. What the hell had she just agreed to? Maya came to Isabella's room within minutes of being summoned. Those weren't there last night, Maya said, staring at the SUVs. I know. Isabella, you need to cancel that dinner. And say what? Sorry, the fact that you're stalking me is a turnoff. Isabella sat on the bed. Maya, what if he gets angry? What if he gets obsessed? Maya shot back. Girl, this is how horror movies start. Isabella's phone rang again. She answered with shaking hands. Those men outside your hotel are for your protection, not to scare you. His voice was calm. Too calm. I made a mistake last night by being seen with you so publicly. Now certain people know you're important to me. Those men will keep you safe until you leave Moscow. Important to you. We just met. But Isabella, I've never felt like this before. And I need you to understand that in my world, when something matters to me, I protect it. You matter to me. What world? What do you do, Victor? Long silence. Have dinner with me tonight, and I'll tell you everything. Complete honesty. No more secrets. Isabella should hang up. Should pack her bags and catch the earliest flight home. 7:45, she said instead. But I want the truth. All of it. You'll have it. I promise. After he hung up, Maya looked at Isabella like she'd lost her mind. You're actually going. I have to know, Isabella said. I have to know what this is. That night, Isabella put on the red dress. It fit like it had been made specifically for her body. Hugged her curves perfectly. The color made her dark skin look luminous. She did her makeup carefully, put on the only nice jewelry she owned, small gold hoops her mom had given her. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked expensive, desired, dangerous. At 7:44, her phone buzzed. My driver is downstairs. Isabella grabbed her purse, kissed Maya's cheek, and whispered, if I'm not back by midnight, call the police. Girl, I'm calling the police at 12:01. The driver was waiting by a black Mercedes that probably cost more than Isabella's house. He opened the door without speaking. The address led to a restaurant in a part of Moscow that looked like money had its own zip code. When they arrived, Victor was standing outside waiting. He was wearing a black suit that fit him so perfectly it had to be custom. When he saw Isabella, his whole face changed, softened. You're stunning, he said, opening her car door. You said you'd tell me the truth. I will, but first, let me look at you for one more second before everything changes. He offered his hand. Isabella took it. The restaurant was empty. Completely empty. Where is everyone? Isabella asked. I reserved the entire place. I wanted privacy for what I need to tell you. They sat at a table by the window overlooking Moscow's skyline. The food was incredible, but Isabella could barely taste it. She was too focused on Victor, who kept watching her with those intense eyes. You said you'd tell me the truth, Isabella finally said. So tell me, what do you do? Victor sat down his fork and looked directly at her. I run the largest criminal organization in Moscow. Drugs, weapons, money laundering, protection. If it's illegal and profitable, I control it. Isabella's heart stopped. You're a gangster. I prefer the term businessman, but yes, I'm what you would call a mafia boss. I should run. Should I've killed people, Isabella? His voice didn't change. Not many, but enough. I've ordered deaths. I've destroyed lives. I'm not a good man. Then why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know exactly who I am before you decide. He reached across the table and took her hand. I'm 30 years old, and I've never believed in love. I thought it was weakness, but then I saw you dancing, and something in me broke open. I can't explain it. All I know is that I need you in my life, Isabella. And I won't lie to you about who I am to get that. Isabella's mind was spinning. This is crazy. You're a criminal. I'm a dance major with student loans. This doesn't make sense. Love never makes sense. You don't love me. You don't even know me. Then let me know you. His grip on her hand tightened. Stay in Moscow. Get to know me. Let me prove that I can be what you need. I can't just abandon my life. What's waiting for you back home? Victor leaned closer. A city that doesn't appreciate your talent. Student loans you can't pay. Working 3 jobs just to survive. Isabella, I can give you everything you've ever wanted. All you have to do is say yes. How did he know about her 3 jobs? Her student loans. You investigated me, Isabella said slowly. You had someone dig into my entire life. Yes, that's insane. That's survival. I don't take risks with things that matter. Isabella pulled her hand away and stood up. I need air. She walked out to the balcony, and Victor followed. The Moscow skyline sparkled in front of them, beautiful and overwhelming. I'm scared, Isabella admitted. You scare me. Good. Victor came up behind her, close but not touching. You should be scared of me, but I will never hurt you. I'd burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you. Why me? Why not someone who fits into your world? Because you're real. His voice got rough. Everyone in my world is fake. They want my money, my power, my protection. But you looked at me like I was just a man. Not a monster, just a man. Do you know how rare that is? Isabella turned to face him, and the look in his eyes almost broke her heart. He looked lonely, desperately, achingly lonely. I can't stay in Moscow, she said softly. But I don't want to never see you again either. Then don't leave. Victor cupped her face. Give me 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks to prove that this is real. If after 2 weeks you want to go home, I'll put you on a plane myself. But please, Isabella, give us a chance. She was about to answer when her phone rang. Maya, I need to take this, Isabella said, stepping away. Maya was crying. You need to get out of there right now. I've been researching him all day. Isabella, he's not just a gangster. He's wanted by Interpol. There are rumors he's killed over 30 people personally, and there's a whole dark web forum about him where people talk about what happens to women who get involved with him. Isabella felt sick. 3 years ago, Maya continued, a woman dated him for 2 months. When she tried to leave, she disappeared. They never found her body. Isabella, people who get involved with him don't just walk away, they vanish. Isabella's hand was shaking so hard, she almost dropped the phone. I have to go. She ended the call and turned to find Victor standing there, having heard everything. Is it true? Isabella's voice was barely a whisper. Did you kill a woman who tried to leave you? Victor's expression went cold. No, but I know who did, and I made sure they suffered for it. She wasn't mine, but she died in my territory, so I took responsibility. The answer is I've killed people who deserved it. Traffickers, rapists, men who hurt women. His eyes were black ice. But I have never and will never hurt a woman, especially not one I care about. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't. Victor took a step closer. You have to trust me, and I know that's asking the impossible. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the building. Glass shattered. Alarms started screaming. Victor grabbed Isabella and pulled her down just as bullets tore through the space where they'd been standing. What's happening? Isabella screamed. My enemies just made a big mistake. Victor pulled out a gun from under his jacket. Stay down. Men in black tactical gear burst onto the balcony, and Victor moved like violence personified. Isabella watched in horror as he shot 3 men in seconds. Precise, efficient, terrifying. More men poured in. Victor was shouting in Russian into his phone. More gunfire, more screaming. Then everything went quiet. Victor grabbed Isabella's hand. We need to go now? They ran through the restaurant. Past bodies Isabella tried not to look at, and out to the street where dozens of black SUVs were screeching to a stop. Get in. Victor shoved Isabella into the middle vehicle. What about you? I'll be right behind you. I need to make sure they don't follow. Victor, but he was already gone, running back toward the building with his gun raised. The SUV took off with Isabella screaming for them to go back. They drove for what felt like hours, taking turns so fast Isabella felt sick. Until finally they arrived at a massive compound surrounded by walls and armed guards. A man opened her door. Miss Chen, please come with me. You'll be safe here. Where's Victor? The boss will be here soon. But an hour passed, then 2, then 4. Isabella sat in a luxurious room that felt like a prison, staring at her phone, jumping at every sound. Finally, at 2 a.m., her phone rang. A voice she didn't recognize spoke in accented English. Miss Chen, my name is Alexander Volkov. I'm the head of the Red Wolf Syndicate, and I'm currently looking at your boyfriend, Victor, who has a gun pointed at his head. Isabella's entire world stopped. He's alive for now. But that depends entirely on what you do next. What do you want? You, Miss Chun, in exchange for him. You see, we've been watching. We know you're important to him, and we're willing to make a trade. You turn yourself over to us, and we let Victor live. You have until sunrise to decide. That's 4 hours from now. The man laughed. It was a sound that made Isabella's blood run cold. Choose wisely, because if you don't come, we'll send Victor back to you in pieces. The line went dead. Isabella stared at the phone in absolute horror. Outside, she heard vehicles pulling up, dozens of them. She ran to the window and almost fainted. 50 black SUVs were pulling into the compound, surrounding it completely. Victor's men were scrambling, grabbing weapons, shouting orders. Isabella's phone buzzed with a text from the unknown number. Look outside. That's our army. You have 4 hours. Come to us, or everyone in that compound dies, including Victor. A photo came through. Victor, bloodied and tied to a chair, unconscious. Isabella's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. She'd known him for 2 days, 48 hours. And now she had to decide if his life was worth more than her own. She thought about her mom, about Maya, about the life she'd left behind in Atlanta. She thought about Victor's eyes when he'd told her she made him feel alive. She thought about the way he'd looked at her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Isabella picked up her phone and typed a message to Maya. If something happens to me, tell my mom I love her. Tell her I finally did something that mattered. Then she walked to the door, opened it, and told the guard standing there, take me to Alexander Volkov. I'm ready to make the trade. The guard stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Miss Chun, the boss gave strict orders. I don't care about his orders. That's his life or mine, and I'm choosing his. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was the dumbest decision she'd ever made. Maybe she'd known him for 2 days, and that wasn't enough time to fall in love with someone. But Isabella had spent 20 years playing it safe, being responsible, doing what she was supposed to do. And where had it gotten her? Broke, exhausted, barely surviving. For once in her life, Isabella wanted to do something reckless, something insane, something that mattered, even if it killed her. The guard made a phone call, spoke rapidly in Russian, then looked at Isabella with something that might have been respect. The car is ready, Miss Chin. Are you sure about this? Isabella thought about Victor's smile, the way his hand had felt against her cheek, the way he'd said her name like it was a prayer. I'm sure she got in the car. And as they drove toward whatever hell was waiting for her, Isabella realized something. She'd come to Moscow looking for $50,000 and a chance to restart her life. Instead, she'd found something worth more than money. She'd found someone worth dying for. Whether that made her brave or stupid, she'd find out soon enough. The car drove into the night, and Isabella didn't look back. What happens next will break your heart and put it back together in ways you can't imagine. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because part 2 is going to destroy you. Will Isabella survive? Will Victor save her in time? Or is this a love story that ends in tragedy? Comment below. Should Isabella have saved herself or saved him? What would you have done? Because I need to know if you're ready for what comes next. Trust me, you're not. Nobody ever is.